right, welcome back, everybody. Episode number 24 of the Plume cast. Already on episode number 24, which is pretty crazy to me. I started this podcast a while ago, and we keep going, and I'm still solo, which is cool. Maybe one day I'll be able to get some guests on, or maybe have a co-host or something like that in the future. But yes, my weekly gaming news podcast, and I talk about just stuff going on within the gaming industry, stuff that I've talked about throughout the week, or things that I wanted to go over that I didn't get to. So thank you guys all for tuning in, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, whether you're tuning in on Spotify or Google Podcasts. I really do appreciate it, just for listening and providing some comments and feedback on what you guys think about the stuff that I do talk about in the podcast. And if you're new here, I do this every week at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless obviously there's something that does come up. And besides that, I make weekly gaming Xbox centric videos. So my channel is Xbox centric. If you're into that kind of stuff, make sure to go check out my channel for my weekly videos. And if you enjoy it, hey, consider subscribing. Just, help the channel grow, help grow the community. And the growth has been awesome, over 5,000 subscribers now. So really, really excited about that. And this week was actually exciting for me personally with my channel, because I finally released my channel merch. So I have this shirt right now. I'm wearing it. You guys can see it on YouTube. Plus a couple of other shirts and a mug and a bottle opener. And all of that is available if you are interested in picking up any of this stuff at plumegear.com. And the link to that website will be in the description below. So go check it out. Let me know what you guys think about the merch. Let me know what you think about the designs. I think the designs are really cool. I like them a lot. I know they may not be for everybody, but if you do like them, or if you hate them, it doesn't really matter. Let me know in the comments below. So every week on the podcast, as you know, or if you're new here, I drink a beer. And this week I have an interesting beer. It is called Dead Elephant. It's an IPA, and it is from Rail City Brewing Company. Now, IPAs, I used to not like them as much. I used to find them just kind of too bitter, or sometimes like too fruity and stuff like that. But over the past year or so, I would say my palate for IPAs has been getting stronger and better, and I've started to enjoy them, and I've been trying more and more IPAs, and there's so many different interesting flavors I find with IPAs. And this one in particular is very interesting, as it says here, it is a sweet and fruity taste with slight candy and biscuit notes and a grapefruit finish. And it's 6.5% alcohol. So a little bit of a stronger beer, but a very interesting taste, very interesting design of the can. That's one thing with craft brews I really do like, is just like, you always get these unique creative names for the beers and unique creative designs on the cans. There's so many different ones out there, and they're all just cool and interesting to look at. I like the ones that, there's a lot of beers out there that craft brews actually have to do with gaming. They have gaming drawings on them, or they have gaming names on them. Like I think I've seen like a Space Invaders one before, which was really cool, and it had like the Space Invaders like creatures or whatever they're called, all the graphics from way back on the can itself, which was awesome. So yeah, that's what I'm drinking. Let me know what you guys are drinking in the comments below, as I definitely love to see what you're drinking, love to see suggestions, and I always keep an eye out for the beers when I go and pick up my beers throughout the week. Although it is hard to find a lot of the stuff, especially if they're local, but I do mark it down and I do take a look. So yeah, in terms of what I've been playing this week, I've been playing a lot of Halo stuff. So I've been playing through Halo Wars 2 because I kind of want to get caught up on that story before Halo Infinite drops. I played Halo Wars 2 when it first came out, like way back. I think it was like 2017. I forget the year. But I didn't play through the campaign. I played mostly the multiplayer stuff, and I don't know why. Because as I jumped into Halo Wars 2 right now, what blew me away right away was, I mean, the game looks great. It's a great game. It's well built. Like, it's a great RTS for console. The controls and everything, I think, are really well done. But the actual cutscenes in that game are spectacular, absolutely amazing. And it made me start thinking, I would love to see like a TV series or a movie with this type of graphic style, art style in the Halo universe. And it's crazy that we haven't gotten too much stuff like that, or at least recently. So I would love to see it. And it's just, I was blown away with how crazy it looked. And I thought to myself, did people talk about this back in 2017 or whenever this game released? Or because it wasn't a mainline Halo game, nobody really gave it too much attention. I don't know how well Halo Wars 2 did. I don't know what the user base is like anymore for online. I know when it came out, it was easy to find games. It was quick and seemed like people were playing it, but I don't know if it's like that anymore. It's obviously not as successful as a game like StarCraft and StarCraft 2, which are like the main successful games in that genre, I think. So, but yeah, I feel like not enough people talked about those cutscenes and just the amazing work on that, and the actual story itself so far has been action packed and fun and interesting. So, going to continue to play through that and finish it off before Halo Infinite drops. Been playing more Scarlet Nexus. I think I'm coming to the end of one of the characters' story, and that game, wow, that game is. I mean, the story and all that kind of stuff and the cutscenes aren't the best. I mean, it's kind of convoluted. There's a lot of stuff you have to follow with it. It is a Japanese style game, Japanese RPG, action based, but the combat is amazing. It's some of the best video game combat that I've played. It's really, really fun. I feel like the combat is always evolving. There's always something new that kind of crops up that you didn't see previously throughout the game. Like recently, I was in an area, and when you use one of your skills, you hold the left trigger. It's your psychokinesis, and it was like, I don't know what it was, but it was kind of like a board thing, and you landed on the board, and then you were able to like ride it and kill a bunch of enemies, which is super cool. And it was the first time I had seen that, and that was like what, 12, 13 hours into the game. So it's cool that the combat continues to evolve. It's really tight. It's really fun. There's lots of different mechanics to it. You got to think about the different skills you're using in the battle in order to take down your enemies, whether that's like breaking a shell or using fire or teleportation to get through some other defenses. So stuff like that. It's really, really fun game. And I'm not too enthralled. Like the story is interesting, but like there's just a lot of talking and text sometimes. So sometimes I kind of just read it quickly and skip through it. But it's good enough to continue to play just for the combat. So I'm going to definitely finish off at least one of the character's story before, because I'm borrowing the game, so I may have to give it back. But I'm going to at least finish off that one character story before I do that. And I think if you haven't tried it out, and you like just fast action games, I would check it out, because it's worth a play. The gameplay is very, very good. And finally, the last couple of days I've been playing the Halo Infinite tech test, and the game looks better than the first tech test. Like they added to the graphics, they made them sharper, they made them crisper. The game, I would say, plays similarly. It's a little bit tighter than it was in the first one. They definitely made some changes, but the best part of all of this is we're finally getting to experience Halo Infinite multiplayer PvP in multiple matches and kind of seeing what it's all about. And I absolutely love it. I think 343 has nailed the base gameplay for Halo. Base gameplay for Halo Infinite. Of course, there's always going to have to be tweaks. Things are going to have to get fixed. And when I say nailed it, I don't mean it's perfected, obviously. I think that, like I said, there's going to be fixes down the road always to this game. There's things that can be done better. Like I'm seeing a lot of stuff about the sniper and how inaccurate it can be. And I think this is something they may have done on purpose, because in Halo 5, I think the sniper was like super, super accurate when you were even no-scoping. But in Infinite, it's a little bit different. I think they're trying to kind of offsetting that. But there's little things like that people are going to complain about and people want to see changed. Maybe movement speed, people want to see a bit faster. I know there's been some issues with like it running on PC. It's not as running as well on console. And it's a tech test. All these things are going to get worked out, I think, before the launch. And even if they aren't, the game is going to have continuous adjustments throughout its lifespan for the multiplayer. For the multiplayer specifically, because they're going to have to always balance it. People are going to find exploits. People are going to find bugs. And that's why you put the game into gamers' hands, to find those things so that you can balance weapons and fix those bugs. But so far, the core gameplay is just such good fun. Like, it's really, really good. The guns feel great. They sound great. The movement, I find, is there. Like, it's It's that mix between your classic Halo and then having sprint. The only thing I would say that is kind of hard for me to get adjusted to is I keep hitting B, which in Halo 5 I believe was your dash, and I keep hitting it even though now there's no more dash. With the regular controller setup, it is crouch, so I keep crouching accidentally, and I guess I kind of like the dash. Now that I think about it, I guess I kind of like the dash from Halo 5, because if I keep going to it, or maybe it's just like because my brain is used to it, but I used it a lot to get away from grenades and just to kind of get around people if they're coming at you shooting. So now that that's gone, you kind of have to go back to how you played Halo in the Halo 3, I would say, in your movement, in your attack, and all that kind of stuff. So with that being said, once you get used to that, I think it's a perfect balance between the modern Halo and classic Halo. So the tech test, if you're not in it, I guess you can't get in it anymore, because I think you have to sign up before September 13th. But next week as well is going to be the big team battle, and I think that's where we're really going to see this game shine with the vehicles and all that kind of stuff in it, because I think a lot of people are going to be playing Halo Infinite multiplayer in big team battle for the majority of it. I love the arena. I'm definitely more of like the smaller arena style stuff in all shooters, more so than the big warfare kind of stuff like you see in like Battlefield. But yeah, it's going to be great. 343 nailed it. I never had any doubt that they would, based off of Halo 5's multiplayer, which I thought was really well done. And Halo Infinite is going to be just insane when it launches. Like, we've already seen so many cool clips that people are making. I can't even imagine when the game gets out to the masses, to everybody who hasn't signed up for the tech test, the amount of stuff people are going to be doing. I can't wait to see. But yeah, I'm going to play some more of that before it goes completely offline for the week until Big Team Battle. But those are the games that I've been playing. And let me know what you guys have been playing in the comments below. Now, in terms of this week's podcast, going to be going over the Perfect Dark stuff with Crystal Dynamics, and it's been 1 year since Xbox bought Bethesda, so just kind of the recap of that and my thoughts when it happened, and just kind of looking what we've seen from that announcement so far. So with all that being said, let's jump into the podcast. All right, so the first topic today I want to go over was just that news that just randomly dropped on my late Thursday night, and it had to do with the Initiative and Perfect Dark, and the fact that they're going to be partnering with Crystal Dynamics in order to create this game and complete this game. And it was news that I guess was unexpected from a lot of people for a couple of reasons. I mean, Xbox Game Studios is huge, and you would think that maybe they would try to get somebody else within Xbox Game Studios to help them out, but they're all working on their own games, so I think that's the main reason why they would want to do that. It's really hard right now with COVID and hitting dates and all that kind of stuff for these development studios. We've seen so many delays, so I think it would be difficult to take another studio within Xbox Game Studios away from what they are currently working on over to help out the Initiative with Perfect Dark, which to me just gives me more excitement in the fact that it means that all of these studios are probably working on some crazy stuff, and we're going to be getting non-stop games in the future with Xbox Game Pass and the Xbox Game Studio. So instead, they reached out to Crystal Dynamics to create a partnership between the Initiative and Crystal Dynamics to work on Perfect Dark. And it makes a lot of sense because Daryl Gallagher, who is the head of the Initiative, used to be the head at Crystal Dynamics. So he already knows everybody probably that works there, or at least a lot of the people that work there. He knows how they work as a studio. He knows their skills and all that type of stuff. So it's really just, to me, because of that relationship, one of the big reasons why they did this, and will create just an easy transition between the two studios when working on Perfect Dark. So that was the big news on Thursday, and the follow-up to all this news was just a lot of people asking why this is happening. Some people were concerned about Perfect Dark and all that kind of stuff, which to me makes absolutely no sense, because outsourcing in game development is something that probably happens with the majority of huge games, at least for parts of it. I mean, you see this all around the industry, that when you're making such a big IP, you're making a game that is going to be a AAA game, you need help other than what's inside of your studio for a lot of them. And that's all this is. That's all it is. It's not a game that is close to the end of development. It's a game that's probably just leaving its concept stage or just beginning its development, I would think, because I don't think this game is going to be coming out for the next couple of years. So reaching out now to get Crystal Dynamics in there, you're going to be bringing them in pretty much from the start of the development, or at least in the early stages of it. So it's not like they're struggling to finish it or to get it out the door that they have to reach out to a third party to outsource in order to get stuff done. And Crystal Dynamics' pedigree, in my opinion, based solely off of the Tomb Raider reboot, is really awesome, because all three of those games are really good. I know a lot of people disliked or liked the least the third game, but I enjoyed every single one of them. I had a great time playing all of them. And what else is interesting to think about is, does this mean that Perfect Dark is going to be a third person game? Could it go in that direction? We never know. If what we've heard previously about the type of game play that is going to be within Perfect Dark, that is going to be John Wick-esque, coming from, I believe, Special Ed from Xbox Era said that, you would think that a third person style of game makes a lot more sense than a first person style, because you probably would want to see your character doing the moves and the combat, like fist combat or just any sort of physical combat other than shooting your weapons. I think a third person perspective would be a lot better for that than a third person perspective would be a lot better for that than a first person perspective. And it would be a complete change in the series, because Perfect Dark, as we know, is a first person shooter. And with the amount of first person shooters coming out from Xbox Studios, in terms of just like shooters like Halo, and then the RPGs that we're hearing about, that we're seeing, believe In Exile is going to be working on a first person RPG. I think that it would probably be okay to change Perfect Dark into a third person perspective going forward for this reboot specifically. I mean, if they do any like remakes or anything, obviously they wouldn't want to, they're not going to change it because it's going to be a remake. But I think for this reboot specifically, they have that creative kind of leeway to kind of do whatever they want and make Perfect Dark into a new universe that people are going to love. And I would honestly be okay just to see something new and creative, because we're in a time that I find that where creativity, even though this is using the same IP like Perfect Dark, it's going to be using that name in order to probably sell it more to people. I just feel like we're in an era of gaming and just all mediums where there's so many remakes and remasters. It's almost like creativity is like going away. It's being thrown out the window in exchange for just the sure thing. And when you do a remake, you do a remaster, it's almost a sure thing that you're going to make a decent amount of money off it if it was a game or a movie or a TV show that previously was loved. Now, they're sort of doing it with this because it is another Perfect Dark game, but we hadn't seen a Perfect Dark in so long. Like, it's been so long since we've seen it, and they're completely rebooting it, meaning that, like I said, the third person perspective would be something that I would definitely be okay with, and I think it would be a different take on it. Now, when getting back to the fact that they're outsourcing this to Crystal Dynamics and it being a very, very normal thing. I mean, we even saw this with God of War Ragnarok, with God of War 2018. So all of the fanboyism in the comments about this is absurd and stupid and makes no sense. But basically, God of War Ragnarok is teaming up or working with Valkyrie Entertainment to help with the creation of the game. So like I said, with these big AAA games, these big AAA studios, it happens all the time where they outsource, and the initiative outsourcing with Crystal Dynamics is a good thing. It increases the strength of relationship between Xbox and Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix, because Crystal Dynamics is a part of Square Enix. We've seen Outriders, which would be another Square Enix game that came onto Game Pass on day one, and that just shows me that working relationship between the two companies is good. And Square Enix, as we know, Final Fantasy and lots of JRPGs, I think it's important to have a good relationship with them so they can get more JRPGs and more of their games onto Xbox Game Pass in order to expand out to the Asian countries and Japan and that kind of stuff. So overall, I think this is a good thing, and I don't see how there can be a negative spin on this. I can understand where people are like, interesting, I didn't expect to see this. This is a surprise, but I don't see how this is being turned into any sort of negativity or anything like that, because to me this is just a great thing. And maybe we'll see more partnerships between different studios, which could bring more games, like I said, to Xbox Game Pass, and more just great working relationships with Xbox. So I don't know, I'm excited. Perfect Dark is one of those games that I think a lot of people are excited for, but there's so much mysterious stuff going on with it. We saw the first trailer where we did see that they are completely rebooting it, but we don't know what the gameplay is going to be like. We don't know really like what the narrative is going to be like. We don't know too much about it, but it's definitely an IP that has a ton of fans. So when they first do show it off, I think it's one of those games that they really have to make sure that it's ready to be shown off. They can't get the reaction that initial Halo Infinite trailer got, because it's a reboot of an IP that's been dormant for many, many years. And when you look at the initiative on LinkedIn, I don't know how accurate this actually is, but I think there's like 70 employees or so. But on LinkedIn, it says a company size of 11 to 50 employees. So, I mean, it's not a massive company. It's a relatively small game studio. And bringing in somebody like Crystal Dynamics to help with the development of this game is not only going to give them more people and give them more resources, it's probably going to help the game come out faster. We're probably going to get Perfect Dark earlier than we expect now because of this partnership and because of the talent there. And yeah, I was just trying to see on their website if they would say how many employees work there right now, but I don't think it's that massive, even though the initiative, as we know, is like being coined as that big AAA experience developer that we're going to be getting amazing games from Xbox. And it can easily be that, even with the amount of employees they have, with creating relationships like this with Crystal Dynamics to come in. So I think this is a good thing at the end of the day, no matter what all the naysayers are saying, no matter what all the fake outrage or the fake fear, uncertainty, and doubt is going on. I think this is a really, really good thing. And I'm even more excited now for Perfect Dark now than I was before this announcement. All right, so this past week marked the 1-year anniversary that Xbox acquired ZeniMax and made their announcement that Bethesda and all of those studios were going to be coming to Xbox Game Studio. So this was an Xbox Wire post that they put out on September 21st at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I remember that day like it was yesterday, because when this announcement came out, it was easily the most surprising, shocking, just absolutely nutty thing to happen in the video game industry in a very long time, and maybe of all time. I think this is one of the biggest moments ever in video games for just a bunch of reasons. So firstly, we know that the Xbox One was a failure of a console in terms of how people perceived the console itself, how people perceived Xbox, how they kind of really went downhill after the Xbox 360, because the Xbox 360, in my opinion, is one of the best consoles of all time. It was a golden age for gaming on the 360, probably up there in my top favorite consoles. It was just absolutely amazing with everything that the 360 had. They kind of perfected the Xbox Live stuff and the dashboard and the friends list and the message, and just so many good nostalgic memories came from the Xbox 360. So with the Xbox One, people were really just expecting it to continue. That's what everyone wanted, and it didn't happen. They wanted to, I guess, try to capture more of an audience with the Xbox One and not just focus solely on gamers. As with the Xbox One, they were branding it as your home entertainment box, where you're going to be watching TV through it, you're going to be watching movies through it, and you're also going to be gaming on it. But it almost was like gaming was not the primary focus for the Xbox One. And I think that besides the DRM stuff, which they obviously later reversed, and PlayStation 4 being $100 less, the Kinect being attached to the Xbox One, besides those things, I think one of the biggest failures of the Xbox One was its initial branding of it being a home entertainment box. And I'm not sure why they did that. Maybe they were thinking back to like the, I don't know, PlayStation 2 days, where the PS2 sold like crazy, And one of the major reasons it sold was because it had that DVD player. And it was like the cheapest DVD player you could have bought at the time. And think about that, where we are today, where DVD players were so expensive back in the day, and the PS2 had that, then you could also play games. So that's one of the reasons why it sold very well. Maybe Xbox was like, we kind of want to do that with the Xbox One, where people are going to buy this box because it's not only great for gaming, it's not only going to have great games, which, I mean, so with the Xbox One overall, with their overall offerings, but you're going to buy it because it's going to be your main source of entertainment for everything that you do. And that just was a failure. And we've seen that we've seen that happen multiple times, where these consoles try to focus on something other than gaming. And I think now it's really been proven that focusing on gaming as your number one priority with a console is how you're going to be successful. So I think with the Xbox One, the ship started turning around in about 2017 when they announced the One X and they announced Xbox Game Pass, and then that stuff started coming. You really just saw a shift in the focus for Xbox, and you saw a shift of what they were going for. They realized that they need to get back to the roots and to the 360 roots, I would say, and focus on solely video games as the main draw to their console. So as that was going, things were getting better and better, and then they announced the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series X, and then from that announcement, it was so obvious that Xbox knew what they were doing. They had an identity again. It was a gaming console. The Series X and the Series S are incredible consoles. They did such a great job with designing them. They came out as the most powerful console in the market, and they knew that that's the marketing and the narrative they had to push forward, that these are premium gaming consoles where you're going to get the best experience. And so I knew with the announcement of the Series X and S that they were back on their way to becoming as good as the Xbox 360 era, if not even better. I think the Series X and the Series S will be better than the 360 as a generation. So that was exciting. And then leading up to the pre-orders, and people were waiting, when are we going to be able to pre-order these consoles? There was a lot of hype for it. The momentum was there. And then they dropped this on September 21st, just a couple of days before you could pre-order the Xbox Series X and S. And I think that just sealed the deal for a lot of people in terms of just thinking Xbox is back. Like, they are back with a vengeance. And even before this announcement, the momentum was on the upswing, and there was a lot of great stuff going on. But this here just kind of solidified any stupid fanboy narrative is that Xbox had no games, because that narrative now, anyone who still says that and still thinks that, kind of their opinion. I know everyone's entitled to an opinion, of course. Like, I'm never against censoring people's opinions or censoring anybody's speech or anything like that. However, if you're still of the opinion that Xbox has no games, it's a bad opinion. It's just a terrible opinion, and you just sound like an idiot for thinking and saying that. And that's just the reality of the matter. And the Xbox and Bethesda thing really just pushes that home. So when this announcement came, it was shockwaves through the industry, especially because you kind of heard rumblings that PlayStation was trying to get Bethesda before this happened with the Starfield stuff. And then Xbox came in and swooped in and made this crazy announcement and just added to Xbox Game Studios as the premium place to play video games, really, when you think about the culmination of what Xbox is right now in terms of the studios that they have, the console that they have, and just the amount of continuous improvements they're doing with things like backwards compatibility. And I guess you can say the preservation of gaming. To me, the best place to play games right now is on an Xbox console. That's what I think. That's my opinion. I'm not trying to fanboy for Xbox, but I truly believe that the Xbox is the best place to play right now because of all of those things. And this announcement added to the RPGs that were already within the ecosystem, added to some great first-person shooters that were already in the ecosystem, and then you added a studio like Arcane and the crazy stuff that they do, and the brilliance of them, and it was just mind-blowing. And I think everybody was completely taken aback when they saw this, because it was an announcement that I didn't see any rumors about before. Like, I don't think there are any leaks or rumors or anything like that that happened before this announcement came. So it was shocking and surprising, and it completely changed the landscape of the video game industry, because then you have to start thinking about all of these games. Are they going to be exclusive to Xbox, which people are still talking about? Games like Starfield, games like Elder Scrolls 6, specifically Elder Scrolls 6. I know Starfield's a huge game that's coming out and a lot of people want to play it and it's going to be very popular, but Elder Scrolls is one of the most popular franchises out there, right? So Elder Scrolls 6 being exclusive to Xbox is going to be one of the biggest exclusives in all of gaming. And thinking about if that was going to be exclusive, and now that a game that was very popular on PlayStation, popular on the Nintendo Switch or on Nintendo platforms, even it's literally everywhere, wasn't going to be there anymore. So all of that came in, and then it kind of went silent for a bit after this announcement, because obviously they had to finalize the deal, which we heard more about in the new year. So there was months and months of speculation of what all of this stuff meant, and they put all of the exclusive stuff to rest at the roundtable and everything. But I want to just kind of continue to talk about what's happened in this last year with Xbox and Bethesda. So this announcement was on September 21st. And then if you remember, I believe it was in January, I could be wrong on that date, they had that roundtable where they talked about how Bethesda coming into Xbox Game Studios is great because they have Microsoft behind them in terms of just the more resources and all that kind of stuff. But Xbox and Microsoft weren't going to tinker with how the studios operated. They were just going to let them be there and do the great work that they continue to do. The biggest advantage that they could also get from that was that if people from other studios were interested in working on some games from these Bethesda studios and Bethesda thought it would be a good fit, they would be able to do that. But there would never be any forced movement of studios working on select games. So that was like the first official meet between Pete Hines and Todd Howard and Phil Spencer and Aaron Greenberg, and I forget who the other woman that was there. Sarah Bond was there as well, but on video. So it was just like the first official meet between the two companies, and that was really cool. And Phil Spencer said that Bethesda games were going to be exclusive to wherever the Xbox ecosystem was, wherever you could play Xbox Game Pass, which was, in my opinion, clear cut that Starfield and Elder Scrolls and Doom and all that kind of stuff, all the future games, all the next Fallout games, all going to be exclusive to Xbox. But the media kept trying to spin it and say, hey, are these games going to be exclusive to Xbox? Which we knew they were, and they officially put that all to rest at E3. But then that wasn't the end. That was just the beginning of the announcements. And then if you guys remember, I gotta find the right article here. Here it is. So yeah, so the FPS boost, this announcement came on March 15th, 2021. And this showed that Dishonored, Fallout 4, Prey, Fallout 76, and Skyrim Special Edition were all getting FPS boost. So this was one of the first announcements showing the benefits of this partnership, or not partnership, this acquisition, because these are all games that a lot of people didn't play, or yeah, I mean, a lot of people didn't play. I mean, Skyrim everybody played, but a lot of people didn't play Prey in particular. I'm not sure how many people played Dishonored. Dishonored is an incredible game, but these are all games that got the benefit of the Xbox hardware, which was that FPS boost where the developers didn't actually have to do anything. It was just getting the FPS boost directly from the Xbox Series X and S. And this was very cool. And all of these games were on Xbox Game Pass on top of a bunch of other Bethesda games that were there. And actually, even previous to that, on March 11th, 20 Bethesda games got announced would be coming to Xbox Game Pass, and this was just a massive drop and got a lot of people excited. So we had Dishonored 1 and 2, Doom, Doom 2, Doom 64, Doom 3, Doom Eternal, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Prey, Rage 2, Classic Morrowind, Classic Oblivion, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online, The Evil Within, Wolfenstein: The New Order, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, and Wolfenstein: Youngblood. So the huge just drop of 20 Bethesda games coming to Xbox Game Pass, and it was like the first realization of just how amazing this acquisition was going to be for Xbox and for people on Xbox Game Pass. And I remember how excited I was when this came out, because seeing games like Morrowind and Oblivion on there, yeah, they're older games, but it just brings back so many nostalgic memories from the original Xbox. I mean, Morrowind specifically, more for me, was very nostalgic for the OG Xbox, because I remember, like, I had no idea what this game was when it first came out. I don't even remember how old it was. I think I was in, like, when did Morrowind come out? And I just looked it up. Morrowind came out on May 1st, 2002. So I was like, how old was I on May 1st, 2002? I was probably 11, 12 years old, around there. I'm 30 years old. So yeah. And I didn't have any idea what this game was. It didn't really mean too much to me. I had just really, I guess at that age, really started to understand and grasp RPGs and starting to get into them. And I remember my friend had it, and he had it on Xbox, and the only way I got to play it was by going to his house, because at that point I don't believe I had the original Xbox, or I had just gotten it, but probably didn't get to play Morrowind. My parents were very strict on some of the games I was able to play. But I remember going to his house and just watching him play and just being in awe of this amazing game, and just how I had never seen anything like that before in a video game. So Morrowind coming was very cool. And then what other games, like Dishonored Definitive Edition. Dishonored is a game that I started back when it first came out on this like crappy laptop that didn't run the game very well, so I never finished it because I just couldn't continue with that shitty experience. So the Dishonored Definitive Edition I played right away when it came out onto Game Pass, and man, what an absolutely incredible game. Even jumped back into some original Doom, which is still fun. Like, believe it or not, it's still fun. But it was so cool to see that they were bringing back some of these legacy games and putting them onto Xbox Game Pass. So that was just a massive announcement for Xbox and for the ecosystem. And then we can kind of jump over to, I mean, the Xbox and Bethesda showcase in June, which was the best showcase in my opinion this year, without a doubt, compared to anything else. I know people are trying to compare it to the most recent PlayStation showcase, but it's not even close in my opinion. I talked about it on a podcast a couple weeks ago. The PlayStation showcase was great, but the Xbox and Bethesda showcase at E3 is by far the best showcase that we've had this year. But they showed off, they talked about Starfield. They announced like, hey, Starfield is 100% exclusive. They put the big banner because I guess people with their bad opinions were still trying to say Xbox had no games, that the game wasn't going to be exclusive. And they announced Redfall, and you even see here like the big red banner, Xbox exclusive. And Redfall was, when they showed it off, was confusing to me. I thought it looked like a new Left 4 Dead game, but it obviously isn't now that we've seen the leaks. It's more of like a Borderlands style game, which has me so excited now for Redfall. And it was just a brand new IP that, I mean, another game from Arcane, and Arcane to me is a gem of a studio. I mean, we've seen that with Deathloop, which is their most recent IP, their newest IP. Can't wait for that to come on to Game Pass in a year. And they've just been knocking it out of the park with all of their releases. Again, the Starfield, the Xbox exclusive stuff. And then they announced just like a bunch more Game Pass stuff mixed in with games that aren't from Bethesda, but Bethesda had a large part in this show. So it was just an amazing show with tons of games. And I think that having Bethesda and the hype around that acquisition, and whether Starfield was, people were still wondering if it was going to be exclusive, and that being put to rest, was just a huge hit and just really helped knock the showcase out of the park. So that was awesome. And it's cool that they call it now the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, that they are, I guess, still going with that branding of, yes, Bethesda is a part of Xbox. We want people, it's such a recognized brand that we want people to still recognize it and not completely remove it from people's minds as Bethesda, the brand, and that, but we want them to realize that it is a part of Xbox. I guess not 100% sure if I said that properly, but what I'm trying to say is they know it's such a strong brand that they can't just call these studios part of Xbox. They need to make sure that people still understand that Bethesda is around. They're just part of Xbox Game Studio. So that was a great show. So after the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, which I think blew a lot of people away,
there was the next thing in August where they announced at QuakeCon that like some Quake games are coming onto Game Pass. Fallout Worlds, the I guess next expansion or upgrade to Fallout 76 was going to be available. And since then, I mean, that's, I say, the end of the announcements. But overall, I mean, I think this has been a pretty successful year since the acquisition. I know there hasn't been really any new games that have dropped from these studios, but we're getting Starfield in 2022, and we're going to get some of the biggest games in the future, all on Xbox Game Pass, which is extremely exciting. But I think that they did a good job overall throughout this year of giving us those chunks of legacy games throughout the year, so that we always had something to play from these studios, and it also reminded us just of the value of Game Pass now with Bethesda. And for people who didn't know, I guess some people didn't know that the acquisition occurred, maybe they would see like that Xbox Game Pass announcement with all of these Bethesda games and then realize, oh, is Bethesda a part of Xbox now? But again, this was one of the craziest acquisitions I've ever been alive for. I think most people have been alive for the craziest one in their lives. So Xbox spent $7.5 billion on this. They're going to make their money back if they haven't already. Like, it's going to be so easy for them to make it back off of this, especially once Starfield drops and Elder Scrolls drops, with the amount of people that are going to subscribe to Game Pass. So it will definitely be a worthwhile investment. But because of this and after this announcement, the next thing is, who are they acquiring next? That's what a lot of people want to see. And there's lots of rumors going around that they are acquiring something big upcoming in the next year or so. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But I wonder, because this announcement was just completely out of left field, nobody saw it coming, we're not going to know when the next announcement's going to come and who the next acquisition is. So all of these rumors, to me, are very, very hard to believe because of that. But yeah, it's been, in my opinion, a successful first year with this acquisition, and going forward, it's just going to continue to get better. And like, this completely, just like I said, squashed any of the talk that Xbox had no games. So I'm super excited for this, and yeah, I mean, I'll just leave it there. But I would love to hear what you guys think about the first year of Bethesda being a part of Xbox. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about all the stuff I talked about within this podcast in the comments below. Make sure to go check out plumegear.com for the merch if you are interested in seeing what I have and interested in picking up any of that stuff. And if you are new here, make sure to go check out my weekly gaming videos. I mean, if you made it through the entire podcast and you're still listening, I would appreciate you hitting that subscribe button if you enjoyed it, you thought it was entertaining and informative. And yeah, I will catch you guys this coming week in videos and next week in the Plumecast. Bye.